Reports are continuing to emerge that OG Anunoby is not happy with his role in Toronto, and now they're surfacing saying that there are multiple Raptors players who are unhappy in Toronto. So in today's video, we're going to break down all of these reports and assess if we should believe them or not. Let's get into it. What's going on, NBA and Raptors fans? It's Jacob here, back with AmateurHour Sports for another Toronto Raptors YouTube video, because on this channel, we're giving you the greatest coverage and analysis on the latest Toronto Raptors news all throughout the offseason. So make sure, if you like what you see from today's video, that you subscribe to the channel. We're on a road to 10,000 subscribers, 5 digits, and you can help us along the way. And you find yourself enjoying this particular video, be sure to drop a like to help support the channel that little bit further. But our video today, assessing the reports again that OG Anunoby is dissatisfied with his role in Toronto. And just as I mentioned there are multiple players apparently coming forward to saying they're unsatisfied with their role in Toronto. Now, this is a weird development here because we spoke about this in a video last week. It was reported by Jake Fischer of Bleacher Report, and Jake Fischer of Bleacher Report is reporting this one again. So what I'm assuming happened here, because we spoke about this last video, and just to sum up what I said in the previous video, OG Anunoby is a great player, no doubt. But Toronto, there's a lot of talent on this team, especially with the emergence of Scottie Barnes. So OG Anunoby, maybe not quite getting the role that he would have wanted with the team, but this is all something that can be handled internally. And I imagine like every team deals with something like this over the course of an offseason. Like, you know, there's a lot of players in the team. Every guy wants to get more play time. Like every player on every team, in every league, in every sport, probably wants more play time than they are actually getting. So, you know, it's nothing that is crazy here. There's no story really. This is probably something that could just be handled internally by the Raptors, and I'm sure like there's nothing that goes towards OG Anunoby getting traded. Now, we've talked about possible trade scenarios just for a little bit of fun in this channel, but ultimately, the Raptors hold OG Anunoby in a higher value than every other team in the league, so a trade with the Raptors is going to be very difficult to make to satisfy Masai Ujiri and the Raptors front office. So what I'm assuming happened with the article from Jake Fischer, that was just a horrible article, and you know, I've spoken many times on this channel how, you know, Jake Fischer wrote the article. I do not believe it in any way whatsoever. And that's going to reign true for this one as well. Because I'm assuming there was backlash from a lot of Raptors fans, Raptors media in general, for that original article written by Jake Fischer. So what he wanted to do was just double down. Like, no, OG is dissatisfied with his role in Toronto. And you know what? There are a lot of people dissatisfied with their role in Toronto, so how about that? And it's just kind of like, it's very much reaching for viewership. It's very much reaching for eyes. And to be honest, if that was the ultimate goal out of creating this story, then it worked. Because, you know, this is the second video that I'm talking about this report, the second time I'm talking about this report in general. It's been all over Twitter for the last week or so, and it's now resurfacing. So to get Bleacher Report back out there, to get Jake Fischer's name back out there, it has done its job in that endeavor. I don't like Jake Fischer and the articles that he writes. I don't really like Bleacher Report in general. As far as their NBA content goes, I think it's pretty awful. A lot of the things that Bleacher Report put out is very laughable, and this is just kind of the same thing here. Because the OG Anunoby thing, again, this is just something that can be handled internally by the Raptors. Like, there doesn't need to be a full-blown story about this. If there is that big of a problem, like, I'm sure we would be hearing about it from other sources, but this is just something that the Raptors are going to work on 100%. But the new development of this story is now becoming that there are a lot of Raptors dissatisfied with their role in Toronto. And this is kind of weird to me because I'm looking at this team like, wow, we just had a great season. We didn't have that good of a bench, but the guys who maybe did have to step up near the end of the season did that and made this team better. Like Boucher, Achua, Thaddeus Young off our bench made this team better, helped us win 48 games, and we were projected to win like 38 and miss out in the playoffs complete, like not even be a play-in team. We were supposed to be a lottery team. All of a sudden, we're a playoff team threatening to improve next season. Like, what is there to be upset with? But then I'm like, well, the guys who were involved in the Raptors winning 48 games, so therefore the players who are actually playing well, are not going to be upset with their roles in Toronto. It's the guys that are not getting play time that are going to be upset with their roles in Toronto. So the guys on the bench not getting into the rotation. So I'm thinking like, the only real player that I'm thinking of when I read this story, that there are a lot of players dissatisfied with their role in Toronto, I'm thinking of Malachi Flynn. We had that whole spat with his father earlier on in the season, how he's not getting play time. My whole thing was like the spot is open. Like, there are not a lot of great bench guys in the Raptors. If you're playing well enough, you're going to have no problem making the rotation, but guys like Malachi Flynn weren't playing well enough to get into that position. Other guys would be like Svi Mykhailiuk, who chose to sign for the Raptors over the Lakers and over the Nets, probably to prioritize playtime, but he wasn't playing well either. Yuta Watanabe re-signed with the Raptors in the offseason, and obviously he wanted that contract, but he didn't really play well enough to get a role here. Isaac Bonga, another one, not really playing well enough to get a role with the Raptors, and that's just the reality of it. Like any real bench player, like I'm thinking in particular Flynn, Svi Mykhailiuk, and then also kind of thinking Yuta Watanabe, Isaac Bonga won't be that happy with the role, but at the end of the day, the Raptors for a long time this season had the worst bench in the league. Like that's not hyperbolic in any way. The Raptors legitimately had the worst bench in the NBA for a lot of this season. So if you're a role player or aspiring to be a role player with the Raptors, if you were playing well, like in any degree whatsoever, you would have been in the rotation because like we just didn't have a lot of guys to choose from. So if you're upset with your role in Toronto, and if you're not playing, you have the right to be upset with your role. But if you are upset with your role, then it's on you to just simply play better. Like as far as OG Anunoby goes, he had a decent season, so I can understand some dissatisfaction with that because there are 5 great players in the starting lineup for the Raptors. In terms of offensive output, like OG might be 5th in the pecking order for next season. Scotty Barnes kind of emerging. You got Fred, an all-star, Gary Trent Jr., very good at creating shots, getting a ton of the offense. Siakam, all-NBA, just commanding a ton of the ball, and for very good reason. I can understand for OG Anunoby, but for these bench guys, like, if you're playing better, you're going to get that play time at the end of the day. There really isn't any agenda or vendetta against these guys from the Raptors coaching staff. They're just not playing well enough to warrant extra play time. And whenever you see them play, in an emergency situation with injuries, or even if you see them in garbage time, there's nothing that you see from them that would warrant more play time. And at the end of the day, I mean, sure, they're going to be upset because they're not getting play time. I think you could go to every single team in the NBA, and they're going to have multiple guys. Every single team in the NBA is going to have multiple guys who are upset with their role. Because, you have a 15-man roster. The average NBA team is using 9 to 11 guys consistently on any given night. So the 4 or 5 guys not really getting any playtime are obviously going to be upset with their role. Even if you're comfortable in your team dynamic, even if everybody within the team, within the organization is very friendly, there's a lot of chemistry within the unit, all of these things could be present, but at the end of the day, as much as you're friends with a guy, it's a business here, and you're vying for that spot in the rotation. So even if you're all friends with these guys, there's a competitive edge within the team, and I think that's healthy for a team to have because your teammates are making you play better. That's what you want. That's a very healthy team dynamic. You don't want that getting in the way of the chemistry, and obviously, the chemistry is very important, but still, there needs to be that competition within the team for each player to improve themselves. So I think that's pretty healthy, and honestly, if you're a professional basketball player not getting play time, I would be upset if you weren't dissatisfied with your role because I want you to be hungry to get into that position. So I think it's good to have people dissatisfied with the role. It's good for them to feel that way because it's up to them to get themselves better for the next season, to get themselves into the rotation for next season. Every team is going to have players like that. And as far as like the main group of the Raptors, like because we don't really know who are the people that are dissatisfied other than OG Anunoby. But just going through the team, like Siakam, Van Vliet, Gary Trent Jr., Scotty Barnes, what on earth would they have to be upset about? Like, nothing. So we're not going to worry about those guys. The bench, Boucher near the end of the season was getting a lot of minutes. Achua near the end of the season was getting a lot of minutes off the bench. Thaddeus Young doesn't even have a contract with the team, so like, why are we even thinking about that? Armani Brooks, like, we took him out of the G League and at least gave him a role near the end of the season. No chance there's any real problem with him there. Champagny, she was in the G League, maybe good enough for the NBA. He could feel satisfied. Delano Banton was a second-round pick. Like, can't really see him being that upset with his role with the team. So you have, again, then you go down to all these guys who are really just not getting any playtime whatsoever, who you would expect to be dissatisfied with the role. And that's all there really is to it. There's no story here at all. There is absolutely nothing with this story from Jake Fischer yet again. Like, I really am growing sick of the articles that he writes about the NBA in general, but specifically the Raptors. If I see his as a source on a Twitter post, if I see him as the author of an article, granted, I'm not really a big fan of Bleacher Report's NBA content in general, as I mentioned, like, I just don't trust it whatsoever, and I would encourage you to do the same. I don't have any inside sources on the NBA. I would potentially argue Jake Fischer doesn't either, but No, I own up to the fact I don't have any NBA sources. All I do with this channel is I process the evidence and information that has been presented, and I assess it and go, does that make sense? Does that make sense? I question everything I read, and as it comes to this story, I'm really questioning it. I mean, sure. Like, I don't think you need a source to tell you that the guys like Malachi Flynn are upset with their role in Toronto. His father has been very vocal about it, so I'm going to assume Malachi Flynn is vocal about it to Eric Flynn, his father. So once again, this is like, you don't need a source to say these things. I can guarantee every team in the NBA has multiple guys who are upset with their role because they think they deserve more playtime. Maybe they don't think they deserve more playtime, but they want more playtime. Every player aspires to get on the court more often. For the Raptors, OG Anunoby, I would believe he is dissatisfied, but it's nothing big. I'm sure the Raptors will handle it internally. As far as the role guys on the team go, to finish off, the bottom line is the Raptors are struggling big time for depth. If you want a rotation spot for next season, who is stopping you other than yourself? Get in the lab, work on your game, and make yourself indispensable for that rotation for the Raptors. And I promise you, if you're playing well enough, you're going to get that spot and nothing is going to stop you. So there you have it. Again, just a pretty rough article. I don't know what you guys thought. I would like to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. You guys can start that discussion, but ultimately, nothing to worry about as Raptors fans here yet again. If you liked what you saw from today's video, then be sure to drop a like to support the channel. When you like, it helps YouTube recommend this video to people of similar interests to you. Therefore, the channel has a bigger reach. It takes you a second to like the video, but it helps me out a lot. And if you're new to the channel and you like what you saw and you want to see more of this all throughout the offseason, especially as you get towards the NBA draft, some great content on the way, make sure you are subscribed to AmateurHour Sports. We're on a road to 10,000 subscribers, and I would really appreciate if you did subscribe. Two other things you can check out by me. First of all, we have a Discord, a great community of Raptors fans. The link is in the description for that to join the Discord. And also, I stream pretty much every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. I talk with you guys about NBA news. Sometimes we do some other fun content. It would be great for you to check out our Twitch streams at twitch.tv/AmateurHourSports. Once again, the link is in the description there. You can follow to make sure you get notifications when I go live. And I'll see you again next time for another video.